Welcome back to our series, A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23. I am so glad to welcome you back to All Church Sunday School. And look, Jamie Plunkett is here as well.
Made it back.
Glad you're here. I need you.
Me too.
So we've been having fun with this book, kind of a classic now, A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23, first published in the 70s. Lots of people all around the world have enjoyed this book, and a perspective of a real life shepherd looking at the shepherd's psalm, written, we believe, by a shepherd known as King David. So
Yes.
we are surrounded with sheep facts, and we're learning to look through that lens and to understand, thinking that if we understand the life of a shepherd a little bit more, we'll understand what we know from this psalm about David and David's life and David's faith, as well as understanding how our relationship with God might reflect a shepherd's care over some less intelligent people, and that's us.
I mean, it hurts a little bit.
I know. We're going to have more examples today of why sheep are the highest maintenance livestock around. So
I like that way of framing it, though. They just need a lot of love.
A lot of
love and care.
That's right. And we're all like that.
We are.
Especially probably at this time. But I want to, before we move on and to our conversation today, we're going to tee up what we're going to do next. All Church Sunday School, as you all know if you've been watching for a while, is our innovation when we weren't able to be in the building at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning in our favorite class having a conversation. And so we've been kind of making this up as we go along. And we'd really like to spend the next series just looking at Scripture. And you had a great suggestion for how we might do that.
So I thought we could hear more from y'all. You know, Renee and I both get emails from you every single week talking about our conversations for All Church Sunday School, and we love that interaction. We love hearing from you guys and just continuing the conversation offline about all of the stuff that we've been talking about. And so what I thought we could do is spend some time in Scripture talking about verses that are really meaningful to all of you. So if you wanted to just send us a couple of verses that have meant a lot to you over the course of your life, we'll pick 6 or 7 of those and just dedicate a Sunday to one of those scriptures and talk about it, exegete it a little bit, and just really get into how significant that text is for us. We have loved your participation up to this point, and we want to continue engaging with y'all.
And that way we can let you know, we can advance. Here's what we're going to be talking about next week. We can all have the Bible open in front of us, and we can just really dig into some scriptures.
People won't have to buy another book.
That's right. For once, you'll just pull the Bible out, which is handy to where you're sitting right now, I know. So we're going to give you the email address in just a few minutes so that you can give us your recommendation.
Absolutely.
And you're thinking favorite or challenging.
All of the above. If you want to put your favorite in an email, do that. If you want to say, I've really wrestled with this one for forever and I can't unlock it,
then we can all wrestle together.
Wrestle together. If just whatever tugs at your heart in that moment of sending that email.
Might be neat as along with your suggestion if you'd let us know why you've chosen this one. We'd love to hear that too. That would be great. And so we'll share an email address before we close today so that we can hear from you, and we hope that's going to happen.
Yes.
You don't know that I've arranged for us to have our own special email address for All Church Sunday School.
That's so exciting.
So
are we both going to get it?
Yes.
Can we go to both of us?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. All right. The verse in Psalm 23 that we're looking at today is, "My shepherd leads me beside still waters," or quiet waters, some of the translations say. And we're going to learn why that is significant. One of the things that Philip Keller writes to begin is about how most people aren't aware of how long sheep can go without drinking. And Jamie's got a little passage that he's going to read for us about that. It's really surprising how long sheep can go.
Absolutely. Most people are not aware that sheep can go for months on end, especially if the weather is not too hot, without actually drinking, if there is heavy dew on the grass each morning. Sheep, by habit, rise just before dawn and start to feed. Or if there is bright moonlight, they will graze at night. The early hours are when the vegetation is drenched with dew, and sheep can fit on the amount. That sentence is giving my brain problems. Let me start over. The early hours are when the vegetation is drenched with dew, and sheep can keep fit on the amount of water taken in with their forage when they graze just before and after dawn. The good shepherd, the diligent manager, makes sure that his sheep can be out and grazing on this dew-drenched vegetation. If necessary, it will mean he himself has to rise early to be out with his flock. On the home ranch or a field, he will see to it that his sheep benefit from this early grazing.
So that's amazing to think that that's enough water for sheep.
Yes.
Just the water they would pick up as they're eating grass. I don't think there's a human equivalent for not needing. Well, I guess if we had a lot of soup, then that would count as water, but
Probably.
it's not the same as sheep. And this idea of this rhythm of rising before the sun rises and making sure that your flock is out taking advantage of the dew that's on the grass. And he talks a little bit further along about that being the purest way, that the cleanest water, the most natural way for the sheep to be able to get something to drink. I haven't told you that I have a shepherd story. That's kind of interesting to me. It's very memorable, and I wish I had the photograph that I had taken of this shepherd. I was part of the Week of Compassion Committee for 4 years.
Okay.
And we took a trip to Bosnia to look at some of the work recovering from the Civil War, looking at the ways that the giving to Week of Compassion had been put to work as communities were coming back. And we were in a place where loans had gone to farmers. And so there was our person driving and negotiating for us. There were a few pastors from the States, was with Church World Service, and we were out in the western, sort of the lower part of the Alps, the western part of Bosnia, beautiful country. And we were going out to see a farm, and we came over the hill, and our driver recognized the woman who was sitting with the sheep. And she was so bored and so happy, she jumped up and ran over to our Jeep and greeted this person that she knew well. And what was happening in this tiny village was that the shepherd that day was helping to work on her house. And in exchange, she had been asked to watch his sheep. And she had her knitting with her. She had some onions that she must have picked from her garden in a sack over her arm, and she had some lunch. And she began to tell the driver, who then translated for us, that she hated sitting with sheep. She thought they were stupid. She was just going on and on in this essay about how much she didn't like having to sit there on that rock and watch the sheep. We could watch over her shoulder while she was talking to the driver. The sheep disappeared over the hill.
Oh no.
By the time she turned around, she screamed and started to run. It was almost as if the sheep heard her, what she was saying, and they're like, we're out of here.
All right, lady.
She couldn't know until she ran up to the top of the hill exactly where they'd gone. And I just thought that was, and the scripture talks about the hired hand, the one who doesn't have any skin in the game. The sheep don't know that person's voice. And I just thought those sheep were like, we're tired of you too. We're out of here. Yeah. And they disappeared over the hill.
Smell bad.
A not good shepherd. But we're talking today about shepherds. And Keller writes in the book, in those very arid places, how hard shepherds have to work to get a place where they can draw water and have water available that will be clean, that won't have any parasites, that shepherds work as hard at the availability of clean water as they do at a green pasture for their sheep to feed on. And so listen to these words from Philip Keller. When sheep are thirsty, now this is the sheep that don't get the benefit of the dew on the grass in the morning. He writes that when sheep are thirsty, they become restless and set out in search of water. if not led to good water supplies, clean, pure water, they will often end up drinking from polluted potholes wherever they find it, and that's where parasites and bacteria come in. The sheep can be made sick really quickly, and apparently they have no discernment about the quality of the water they're drinking. You'd think it would smell a little off, it would taste a little funny, they'd move on, but apparently they'll just drink whatever water they come to first. And I read some stories about large flocks disappearing because of water that was contaminated by E. coli and some other problems. So the shepherd's duty, whether it's a trough, whether there's a place where hot water is being hauled, you can see in this picture a lot of different ways the sheep are getting a drink. When they're thirsty, they're agitated and restless. And it's really a problem for shepherds to make sure that their sheep can always depend on a supply of cool, clean water. So being thirsty for sheep means restlessness. And I asked you, I gave you an assignment,
Yes.
not only moments ago,
Several minutes.
to talk about how we understand in Scripture the idea of the human spirit thirsting for something.
Yeah.
That's kind of an image, especially probably in the Psalms, to thirst for God. What did you find?
Well, I think understanding where what like the origin of thirst and hunger are is really important, right? It's the manifestation of a physical need that your body has. So you're getting a signal that something's not right. You're getting a signal that there's something that you need to bring yourself back to full health or to nourishment, whatever it might be. So this idea of thirst, just generally, is a signal that something's not quite right, that something needs to be remedied. You know, you think about going on a long run, and the first sip of water that you have after a long run or after a workout or a game or whatever it is so like your body does this like big sigh. Like if you think about a kid, like when my kids are in the yard and they're just running and sweating and playing, and they come in and their faces are like way too red, like almost red enough you're concerned. They're sweating and they're running, and then they get that big glass of water and they just drink it and drink it and drink it and drink it, and then that just visceral like that comes after a glass of water.
Hydration you can actually hear.
Absolutely. It's that your body almost saying, okay, I was really thirsty, something was wrong, and now my thirst has been quenched. Okay, I can relax. My restlessness has been put at ease because of what I've just consumed. But you think about that from a faith perspective. You talk about restless people and, you know, people who have maybe missed their calling. My own personal story is, you know, I was right when Skylar and I got married. I just changed jobs, so I interviewed and got hired for a job, went on my honeymoon, and then started a new job the next week at a hospital.
You were
consulting
trying to
firm.
have as many transitions as possible.
Transition in bulk. That's what we do in the Plunkett household. And so we bought a house and got 2 dogs like 3 months ago. So here we are. But, you know, so that new job was a marketing job with a wonderful consulting firm. I was working with incredible people who I loved. The work was really great. The company had a mission and was giving back, but none of it was fulfilling. I was still really restless, and it's because I knew that ultimately my calling from God was to go back to seminary and to go into ministry, and I was ignoring that. I was pushing that off for as long as I could. And so no matter how satisfying the work was mentally for me, there was still this restlessness in my heart.
Meeting that need that you had.
Yeah, and so you talk about restless people and how many people move through their life without really fully listening to what God has for them or what God is calling them into, whether that's ministry or any other kind of vocation. You know, there's something to be said for the restlessness of our heart when we're not in tune with what God is doing in our lives. And so, you know, I mean, and in Scripture, we see it too all the time. Matthew 5, we see a reference to hungering and thirsting for righteousness, that kind of that restlessness when we know that things aren't right for everyone. You know, we see a lot of restlessness right now because people are fighting and pushing for change and for justice. We see in the Psalms, like you mentioned earlier, Psalm 63, my soul thirsts for you. It's David again. We attribute to David writing to God, my soul craves you. My soul is ready for more of you so that I can be put to rest. John 6, Jesus says, whoever believes in me shall never thirst. And on the cross, in John 19, Jesus says, I'm thirsty, and that fulfills previous scriptures, you know. This idea of being thirsty really is communicated all throughout Scripture, and it always relates to us having a need for a deeper connection with God. And the result of that deeper connection is rest and a lack of restlessness and a quenching almost of our agitation.
And in some ways we
Yeah.
can be like sheep looking for love
Yeah.
in all the wrong places, looking for a way to
You know.
have our thirst satisfied. And,
Yeah.
and if the thirst doesn't go away, then that's the signal.
For sure.
Maybe that's not really what you were missing. You know, we have this famous quote from Saint, do you say Augustine or Augustine?
I say Augustine.
You're in the Augustine camp.
I am.
Of Hippo, who wrote,
I say that hypo.
no, you don't. Wait a minute. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. I bet you use that quote with your youth group, don't you?
We've covered Augustine a couple of times.
So we're created
that's
with this space
yeah.
for God within us,
Mm-hmm.
and we can try to make it about work or relationships or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is this this way that we have been created for God.
Yeah, so I mean, we just spent 3 weeks with the high schoolers doing a series called Who Are You? And we took a look at 3 different tools for understanding, personality type tests. So we did the spiritual gifts inventory, we did Myers-Briggs together, and we did the Enneagram. We talked about all 3. And we couched all of that with the understanding that God created you with intent. God spent time out of all of the things over all of the time that God has created. God stopped and said, Renee, I'm going to create you. I'm going to give you these gifts. I'm going to give you these skills. This is how you're going to be created in my image. And the fact that God does that with every single person is the way that we started these conversations with our high schoolers. And so you kind of work through all of these personality tests then, and you start to say, okay, well, I'm working from an understanding that God created me with intent. God had a reason for creating me. God created me and gave me a certain gifts and certain skills to make a difference in this world, to move this world towards wholeness, to find wholeness for myself. And so, this seeking out and self-understanding, I think, is so critical to what St. Augustine is talking about here too. Because if we work from a place of saying, I know that God created me with intent, I know that God has gifted me with certain skills to make this world a better place, I need to do some legwork on my end to understand how and why. And that can't happen if we're disconnected from our Creator. It just can't.
To know that alignment with what has been created in us is the most satisfying life
Absolutely.
that we can live. And that
It's
the world needs us to
be who
lean
we are.
into where our gifts are.
Absolutely.
And to bring that to the rest of the world.
The world, yeah, that's what we told our high schoolers every week. The world needs you to be exactly who God created you to be.
So that sounds like a great series.
It was fun.
I'm glad that.
It was a lot of fun. We're
And
gonna
and they were
revisit it.
really energized by it.
I think so. I mean, they were engaged all 3 Sundays for an hour and a half talking about themselves, which for people is a lot harder than talking about other folks sometimes. That was kind of how we started the whole conversation. Was we're going to do some really in-depth work on ourselves. We're going to explore ourselves. We're going to talk about what we're good at, where our gifts are, what our personality traits say about us. And the initial kind of reaction, I think, from most people when you start to get into conversations like that is, maybe let's talk about you. Let's deflect from ourselves and talk about. I can tell you what your gifts are really well, but talking about my own self is more difficult.
So as you facilitated that conversation, you kept reminding them, okay.
They didn't need much reminding. They got into
didn't.
it right away. Yeah, it was really fun.
For most of us, our favorite subject,
can
me.
be ourselves. Yeah.
But I guess we like to choose when to talk about it. I want you to hear these words from Philip Keller, because I think to really kind of bring home this idea of thirst in an animal and how that is satisfied, and then thinking about our own hearts. He writes, "In my mind's eye, I can see my flock again. The gentleness, stillness, and softness of early morning always found my sheep knee-deep in dew-drenched grass. There they fed heavily and contentedly. As the sun rose and its heat burned the dewdrops from the leaves, the flock would retire to find shade. There, fully satisfied and happily refreshed, they would lie down to rest and ruminate through the day. Nothing pleased me more." And here's where he thinks about his own life. "I am confident this is the same reaction in God's heart and mind when I meet the day in the same way. My shepherd loves to see me contented, quiet, at rest, and relaxed. God delights to know my soul and spirit have been refreshed and satisfied." What do you think about that observation?
I love that last line, that God delights in our refreshment and in our satisfaction. I believe that wholeheartedly.
I would imagine God delighted in the conversation with young people about their gifts and the enthusiasm they expressed for knowing they were all originals and that they'd been equipped for something important.
Yeah.
I imagine God does delight in us being aligned, being calm, being satisfied.
Absolutely.
By the work that God has called us to.
Absolutely. And I think too, the little piece about the sheep when they got that good grass with the dew and then they rested, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about how the sheep don't know when they're drinking bad water. And sometimes we don't know when we're drinking bad water sometimes. I mean, the water can put off all of the same signs as good water, and then we ingest it and something's just not right. It's like problems. Whether we're in the wrong profession, whatever it might be, if our situations aren't great, we might make the best of it. I'm one of the best reframers on the planet. I will always make it a positive spin if I can, but sometimes your situation will make you sick.
Right. And I hope that even in this conversation, if all of you who are with us for this conversation were actually here at the table, and we could all unpack, I've also been restless lately, and I haven't been paying attention to that, or I've just been filling it up with binge watching my favorite television show. But
sometimes that's self-care.
Sometimes that is self-care, depending on the show, I think. But to be enough in touch with ourselves to understand that restlessness and to understand we need to go deeper and look a little bit more thoughtfully about what's missing in our lives, about that alignment with God's Spirit. That is always a key.
Shannon Moore does a tremendous job of asking questions like that to people. And so I'm going to take a leaf out of his book really quickly and just say, if you are feeling restless, or if you see what's happening in the world and you feel disgruntled or at odds with what you're seeing in the world, the best question you can ask yourself is, why am I feeling that? And really do the deep dive, really explore, really discern.
Don't rush off to the nearest watering hole.
Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling about what I'm seeing?
What does it kind of set in motion in my heart, in my mind? I think that's... So I came through this study and preparing for our conversation just feeling myself like one of those sheep in the shade of that tree in one of the pictures, and feeling myself sort of settle and take a deep breath and imagine God delighting in us getting this right.
Yeah.
And serving from our strengths and taking the time to be refreshed and renewed, understanding that that there is a plan. There is a plan, and the restlessness means maybe we have detoured off the path slightly. Or maybe we haven't even found the path yet, and we need to keep looking. Don't get distracted. Understand that the shepherd is delighted when we pay attention to the deeper things.
I think that's true. there's nothing, just like I've said it already, there's nothing better than fully living into who God created us to be. That's the best thing we can do for this world. It's the best thing we can do for ourselves. It's the best thing we can do for our relationship with God.
And restlessness isn't a bad thing if we pay attention to it.
Right.
It is constructive.
Just like thirst, it's a sign that maybe there's something that's missing.
Something's missing. All right, let's talk a little bit more about where we're headed. This is lesson 4 in our book, A Shepherd Looks at Psalm 23. So we've got 2 more weeks. And then we want you to help us know what is coming next for some good old-fashioned Bible study.
Absolutely. So, for instance, I don't know how many of you watching have a life verse, but that's a process that I went through way back when, and at that moment in time.
Did somebody give that verse to you?
No, it was a matter of kind of seeking it out for yourself was the process. I went through it with Reverend Dr. Doug Skinner over at Northway Christian Church when he was still there. But for me, a verse that has played a significant role in my life is Joshua 1:9. The have I not told you already, God says to Joshua, be strong and courageous. I am with you wherever you go. Have I not already told? And you go and you read all of chapter 1 of Joshua, and it's literally just like 12 verses of God saying, I am with you always wherever you go. Don't worry about it. I'm with you always wherever you go. And then by verse 9, God's saying, I've already told you. I don't know how many other ways I can say this.
It seems like a very parental verse for you to be.
Oh yeah, it's super helpful. I've got it up on my wall in my office. But if you have a verse like that, or if you have a verse that you've really wrestled with, that you want to know more about, this is an opportunity for us to sit down at this table together and really just explore and examine what Scripture has for us. We could pull our favorite verses, our challenging verses out all day and probably do a whole year's worth of Sunday schools on them. But I think it would be much more valuable to kind of let y'all take the reins and just you be the guide for this next series and tell us what we're talking about so that we can interact with you.
And we could talk about a particular story in Hebrew Scriptures or the New Testament, your favorite story.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be specific chapter and verse.
So
let's take a look at the different versions of Mary and Martha in the Gospels. Let's take a look at some of the lesser known prophets in the Hebrew Scriptures. If we want to talk about Revelation, like heck, let's do what you guys want. I'm ready to talk about it all.
So this is the email address, ACSS@UCCFTW, University Christian Church Fort Worth.com. ACSS stands for
All Church Sunday School.
All Church Sunday School.
I like it.
We can all remember that.
Should be easy.
And so we want you to send us. We want to hear from you, just what's going on with you and what you'd like to see more of. But particularly, we need your suggestions for the next series here at All Church Sunday School. We are always so grateful that you're a part of this conversation. We look forward to hearing from you. Stay safe. Pay attention to that restlessness. It is God at work in your life. And we'll see you soon.